I'd have to be able to create. I have to create something. I would rather die if I couldn't create. You can't shut me down. I have to give it out. It's so much work. A lot of people, they're used to just seeing the outcome of work. They never see the side.
When people talk about Michael Jackson as a creative person, they usually jump straight to talent. They say he was gifted, born different, a natural. And sure, that's true.
Yeah, if the whole world is against you or tease you, or then you're not going to make it. Believe in yourself.
But talent doesn't explain the output. Talent doesn't explain the discipline. Talent doesn't explain how someone stays sharp for decades, across styles, across pressure, across eras that chew artists up and move on. What really made Michael Jackson different was how seriously he took the act of creating. Not just music, but anything worth doing. He treated creativity like a responsibility. And the way he worked is something most people never really slow down enough to look at. Michael grew up surrounded by music, but more importantly, surrounded by examples. He didn't just listen casually, he studied, he watched, he copied on purpose. As a kid, he would sit in front of the TV and replay performances again and again. James Brown, Jackie Wilson, Fred Astaire. He didn't just admire them, he broke them down. He watched how they moved, how they paused, how they controlled a crowd. He paid attention to the small things most people miss: the timing before a move, the breath before a note, the silence before applause. He understood very early that greatness leaves clues. What's interesting is that he never tried to hide where he learned from.
James Brown, Jackie Wilson, there's so many great singers.
He talked openly about it. He loved James Brown, he loved Jackie Wilson, he loved the Beatles, he loved classical music. He loved painters, sculptors, filmmakers. He once said he was a huge fan of Michelangelo and wanted to know what inspired him, how he worked, what his process was. That tells you something important. Michael wasn't obsessed with fame. He was obsessed with craft. He wanted to know how great things were made. And he didn't limit that curiosity to music. He believed art was art, no matter the form. Dance, painting, film, architecture, sculpture. To him, they all came from the same place: human feeling shaped by discipline. He believed that if you studied enough great work across enough time, you started to recognize patterns, not formulas, but principles. The way emotion moves through structure. The way simplicity often carries more power than complexity. That's why something like the moonwalk didn't feel random. People talk about it like it appeared out of nowhere. It didn't. Michael had watched performers from earlier eras, silent film stars, street dancers, people like Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin wasn't flashy. He was precise. He knew how to make people laugh and feel sad at the same time. Michael admired that deeply. He admired anyone who could control emotion with small movements. The moonwalk wasn't just a dance move. It was a visual illusion. Forward motion while moving backward. Progress that feels effortless. That idea didn't come from nowhere. Michael understood something many creators struggle with. Copying the surface gets you nowhere. Studying the spirit gets you somewhere new. He once talked about how great artists all try to express the same thing, no matter the era. The human spirit, the tools change, the time changes, the audience changes, but the core doesn't. That's why he believed you could study artists from the past and still make something modern. The goal wasn't to repeat what they did. The goal was to understand why it worked. His autobiography is dedicated to Fred Astaire. That alone tells you a lot. And the book opens with quotes from Thomas Edison and John Lennon. Inventors, builders, people who failed publicly before they succeeded. Michael didn't separate art from effort. He believed great work came from persistence, curiosity, and repetition. He believed you had to earn ideas. At the same time, there's a paradox in how he worked. Michael believed deeply that you couldn't force creativity. He talked about this often. He said, if you sit down and tell yourself you're going to write the best song ever, nothing happens.
I'm a great fan of art. I love Michelangelo. If I had a chance to talk to him or read about him, I would want to know about what inspired him to become who he is, the anatomy of his craftsmanship.
Pressure blocks the flow. He believed ideas arrived when they were ready, almost like they were given to you. He described songwriting as something spiritual, like the song already existed somewhere, and he was just the channel it passed through. That doesn't mean he waited around doing nothing. It means he prepared himself constantly so that when an idea arrived, he could catch it. That's a big difference.
How do you write a song? How do you write a song?
How do I write a song? Well,
You don't
I
have a
sat
pen in
down
your
at this
hand and you
piano-
don't try. What would happen?
if I sat here and played some chords, whatever, and say, I'm going to write the best song I've ever written, nothing happens. Now, I remember when I wrote Billie Jean, I was riding in my car down Ventura Boulevard. All I said to myself beforehand, I want to write a song with a great bass hook, you know, and I just let it go, really. And then several days later, you know, the whole
Where did that come from?
He filled his mind with music, art, movement, images. He kept his senses open. Then, when something clicked, he moved fast. There's a famous story about writing Billie Jean. Inevitable. Michael also noticed something uncomfortable about creativity. Overthinking often makes things worse. He learned this the hard way. There's a story from the recording of Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Michael wanted to remove a violin line from the intro because he felt it disturbed the groove. Quincy Jones refused. He said that line was one of the strongest parts of the song. Michael accepted it, and the result speaks for itself. That moment stayed with him. It taught him that instinct matters, but collaboration does too. At the same time, Michael was known as an extreme perfectionist.
Oh, he was a perfectionist, absolute perfectionist. And because he was that way, and the same thing with Quincy Jones, when you work with him, you really want to give him your best. You want to do the best you can do for him because he's given you his best.
Everyone who worked with him says the same thing. He wasn't casually demanding. He was precise. He listened closely. He noticed things others missed. And that perfectionism wasn't random. It came from his early days at Motown. Berry Gordy drilled attention to detail into the Jackson 5. Nothing left the studio unless it was right. That mindset stuck with Michael for life. There's a story from a live engineer who recorded one of Michael's shows. After the show, Michael listened back to the tape and insisted on re-recording his vocals. Not because they were bad. The engineer told him they were beautiful, almost perfect. Michael didn't want to hear them. He wanted to improve them. That tells you something important. His standard wasn't good enough. His standard was as close as possible to what I hear in my head. And yet, even with all that discipline, Michael never lost the sense of wonder. He believed that creativity should feel light. That joy mattered. That play mattered. That's why he never stopped dancing, even alone. That's why he talked about ideas falling into his lap. He didn't want art to feel heavy. He wanted it to feel alive. Another thing people miss is how much adversity shaped his drive. Michael was very aware that great artists are often laughed at before they're understood. He talked about the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, people who were dismissed, mocked, ignored. He took comfort in that. It told him resistance wasn't a sign to stop. It was part of the path. Even late in his career, after decades of success, he still talked like someone who hadn't finished. He believed there was more ahead, better work, bigger ideas. He said, "You ain't seen nothing yet." That wasn't marketing. That was mindset. He didn't see creativity as something you peak at. He saw it as something you deepen. What's powerful about Michael's creative process is how balanced it was. He studied relentlessly, but he trusted instinct. He demanded perfection, but he valued flow. He respected the past, but he never tried to live in it. He believed effort mattered.
I do believe deeply in perfection. I'm never satisfied. I'll cut a track or something. I come home and I say, no, that's not right. We got to do it over. That's not right. And you just go back and back and back. And then when it's finally out, you say, darn it, I should have done this. I should have did it. And it's number one on the chart. You're still screaming about what you should have done.
But he also believed surrender mattered. That balance is rare. And the advice hidden in all of this is simple. Study the greats. Not to copy them, but to understand them. Fill your mind with things that move you. Pay attention to details. Respect the craft. Work harder than feels comfortable. Then, when something clicks, don't overthink it. Let it move through you. Michael believed that whatever you do, you should do it with care. Even if you're sweeping floors, even if you're painting ceilings, do it as well as you possibly can. That attitude wasn't about fame. It was about self-respect. He believed that greatness wasn't reserved for special people. It was built by people who took their work seriously, even when no one was watching. That's why his creative process still matters. Not because it turns you into Michael Jackson, but because it shows you what's possible when curiosity, discipline, humility, and belief all exist at the same time.